Season 1 of Disney Plus's The Mandalorian was a giant success for the Star Wars universe and Disney as a whole. And 1 year later, they brought us the next round of adventures of Din Djarin and the Child. In a season that would take them from familiar locales to parts unknown, and with new and returning faces in the mix. Does Season 2 of The Mandalorian live up to the bar set by Season 1? Or like its jetpack-equipped protagonist, has it soared to even greater heights? Find out on this episode of Scripter Screen. Welcome, everybody, to the Chris and Zachary Hour, the new show here on Scripter Screen.
You're on talk radio.
We're just hanging out, just a couple of guys having a good time, enjoying the week, enjoying this weird weather. Dude, can we talk about the weather that we've experienced in lovely, sunny South Florida as of late?
Yeah, it's like been, the other day, it was like 48 degrees when I woke up.
I don't know why. This is we live where people vacation, dude. We did not sign up for this weather. What's going on, guys? Sorry.
Welcome.
This is Scripter Screen. This is the weather segment of Scripter Screen. How's the weather out there, Zachary?
Oh, it's getting warmer. It's getting warmer. You're gonna see a nice heat wave coming down from the northeast.
Oh yeah. And when will it not leave ever again? Actually,
I feel like if we were gonna do like weather jokes, it should have been last week or last episode.
Oh yeah,
when we were talking about Groundhog Day, where the character is literally a weatherman.
That is that is true. We waited till now. I don't know. It's just this morning I woke up and after maybe a couple days of sun and heat, it got cold all of a sudden. Now I realize the rest of the continental U.S. is going through some sort of blizzard or everybody getting snowed in or something. But I don't know. It's just not what I signed up for when I moved to Miami.
Well, it's one of those things. We get a week of cold, and then we get the other 350 something days
months of heat. I think we did talk about this on a past episode, but I actually really do like the cold. I'd rather be cold and try to get warm than warm and trying to get cold.
Bingo.
Yeah, that's just the way I feel about it. Anyways, how's your week going, Zach?
Oh, it's going pretty well. Just taking it day by day. That's how I live my life.
That is a great way.
And how about you?
As you know, I had a very difficult week of work last week, putting in lots of long hours, doing fun. You know what I love about working on commercials is that they really know how to fucking work you. They any moment that they have to just kind of get many hours of your labor as possible, they will get them. So I say that, but I say it with love because working on commercials is such a privilege that I in all my years of working in productions, it's not something I got to do until maybe a year ago. I finally made the right connection to get into this part of the industry in South Florida. Before I had really worked on like reality TV and a couple movies here or there, but like commercials are kind of where it's at. You make the most money on them. I'll be honest.
Yeah, hey, that's the name of the game.
That's a union job right there. I'm not a member of any IATSE or anything like that, but it's
just a nice thought either way.
It is, honestly. So I'm not complaining. It was just they worked me.
Working in a production, it's you really get to see the nuts and bolts behind what a typical person might only I say typical a person who's not involved in it might only see the end product.
That's true.
And
so everybody becomes easily impressed off the bat.
So, but I mean, you get a nice peek behind the curtain. And speaking of peek behind the curtains, I think you wanted to give a little shout out to somebody.
I did. We here at Scripter Screen are a community of creators and content pushers out in the world. And Scripter Screen would be nothing without the iconic Scripter Screen theme.
Yeah, you might have heard it. Here's a sample.
Wow, thanks, Billy. What great edits that you have. Yeah, our resident music artist, the artist formerly known as 1BB, as I like to call him, my buddy Nick, he has decided, Nikolai G, has came together with his buddy Ryan to form a company, MakeBetterSongs.com. Their goal is to help people, I'll just read you their personal production statement.
Yes.
Getting your songs to come out the way you want can be really hard. A great way to cut through the noise is by having your personal audio craftsman in the digital era of the music industry. Your ideas and stories deserve to be brought to life the way you have always imagined them at the highest standard. Dude, Nick, we're so proud of you here. We want to do everything we can to make sure you have the same amount of success that you helped us achieve by giving us, the opportunity to collaborate with you on our music
and more.
And more. Listen, guys, listeners, if you're out there creating content and you need help with music, maybe you're not a musician yourself, maybe you have some great ideas, reach out to them. It's MakeBetterSongs.com. Go right now. Show them some love. I'm telling you, quality craft, quality work. They also have some really big clients. They've already worked with like the MSI brand, like of the gaming series laptops. I think they've done some work on their commercials, and they actually have a few tracks on the website that you can listen to. So yeah, if you're into like pop or electronic mixes and just really, really want to do some things with vocals, maybe check them out. They will help you out.
We couldn't be happier with what we got. So
honestly, I remember you and I were kind of going back and forth with the theme for a while, just thinking what it should be and everything. And then I told Nick, I was like, listen, he's a buddy of mine for years now. And I said, we need some help, man. We actually, I don't know if you remember, he did the music for one of my shorts in college, like maybe 4 years ago now, like 2017. What is that? Yeah. And it couldn't have come out better. So I knew exactly who I was going to go to for any more help that we needed. And yeah, I think listen, MakeBetterSongs.com. Check them out.
Definitely check them out.
That being said, you're always here listening to the podcast because you love Script or Screen. And if you want to show your support for Script or Screen, go to scriptorscreen.com or anchor.fm/Script or Screen. Check out all of our past episodes of the podcast. Don't forget, you can find us on our social media pages at Script or Screen on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. Please give us a like, give us a follow, share with your friends, leave us a comment, tell us what you want to hear next. And now that we got that out of the way, Zach, today we are talking The Mandalorian Season 2.
The Mandalorian. Disney Plus's hotness.
How do you feel about The Mandalorian? We're back to talk about it again. Are your thoughts the same? Have they changed? What do you think?
It's funny because, I like The Mandalorian. It's shocking hot take. I think it's a good show. The first season, especially upon my rewatch of it for our first episode, because I watched, obviously, the first season, I watched it as the episodes came out, as I did with the second season. And then for our rewatch, the episode we did, we rewatched it, and, with a more critical eye. And I think with like a lot of shows in their first season, you can see a lot of the cracks.
Yeah.
A lot of the stuff where you go like, oh, they need to work on that. And that needs to be better if they're going to do that, from scripting to production design to special effects.
You could say from script to screen.
Ayo.
Let me ask you something. There's a lot of people out there in the world that think that the first or 2 seasons of shows, like the rawness that they may have compared to like the rest of the series, like hold more value than some of these things. Like, you look at, I think people say the first season of The Walking Dead, funny enough, we mentioned that in a past episode, is probably the best out of all of them. Would you agree with that statement?
So, me being personally a fan of
I guess
The Walking
that's a very
Dead,
specific example.
I'm a big fan of The Walking Dead comic, and I loved the show. So I'll say this. Season 1 is good. Season 2 is kind of bleh. Honestly, I think season 3 of The Walking Dead, seasons 3 and 4, and to an extent season 5, were like my favorite chunk of the show, but that's because it covered a very specific area of the series from the comics that I was always most interested in. But you know, like season 1 of Walking Dead, definitely it has, I feel, the clearest artist's vision, because it was being handled by Frank Darabont, and his experience on the show did not end well, which I think kind of it made a lot of the things as the show went on kind of rocky. But yeah, I mean, with a lot of shows, sometimes its most solid, point is right at the beginning. I know Dexter, the show Dexter, ran for 8 seasons, which I and many people agree is about 4 seasons too many. But that first season is mwah. It's fantastic.
So I'll bring this to more Star Wars content, given we're on the subject.
Oh, we're talking about Star Wars?
Speaking of which, actually, before I do that, I don't want to get too far before I remember to say this. We did have actually one more piece of housekeeping that I forgot to mention. I'm an idiot. On the very first episode of our Mando episode, we talk about where Star Wars originally shot and everything, and I, for whatever reason, said Tanzania when I definitely meant Tunisia, and I just hope that the audience knows that I'm not a fool and I am not a fake Star Wars fan. Please, guys, I really do love this franchise.
There's a person who's leaving a comment in our first Mando
you
video.
Stupid.
He's typing it and he goes, "I sense a disturbance."
Yeah. Anyways,
hey, you know what? We're human. We're human. We make mistakes.
I don't want to be the guy that also doesn't. There you go. I don't want to be the guy that talks on his podcast a lot of shit and then doesn't correct himself after the fact or needs somebody else to point it out. I recognize my mistakes. Anyways,
that's good.
Going back to series that have weird beginnings and weird
ends. Well, I was going to say, I think The Mandalorian, moving into season 2, it recognized a lot of its mistakes and corrected, I think, a significant number of them. It didn't, I don't think it entirely stuck the landing, but I would say overall, personally for me, I think season 2 was a strong improvement over season 1. Yeah, and I mean, you look at like their past work too, from Lucasfilm. Like, take the animated series, The Clone Wars. Since the last viewing or the last episode that we discussed Mandalorian, I know you still haven't watched Clone Wars, but I take a look at, they had like 5 seasons, and then a 6th one released on Netflix, and then a 7th one released on Disney Plus. I remember those first 3 seasons still pretty rough. Yeah,
I mean, I know that's a lot. It's just like I'd say the production value, at least that aspect, increased tenfold in seasons 4 and 5. And then it carried over to 6 and 7, obviously. Actually, 7, it changed a little bit, but they say it was for the better. I'm still on the fence about it. I don't know. But it's not terrible. It's still a good show. And maybe even the content, too. So it was only in their best interest to make those same improvements with Mandalorian. And I agree with you. I think that the product that we got with the season overall is still relatively better than what we got the first season. I still have some reservations. We'll get to our wish list for season 3 toward the end of the show. But yeah, I mean, let's get into it. And
I want to start by saying anything we discuss here. First of all, we're gonna go full spoilers. I don't think we're gonna be as nitty gritty as we got in our first Mando episode.
Yeah,
but we will discuss full spoilers. So if you haven't seen Mandalorian season 2.
What are you doing?
Seriously. I mean, like, get with the cultural zeitgeist.
Actually, let's talk about the cultural zeitgeist right now, because you know what? There's other, things being released on TV and in theaters right now that it's just so normal for there to be spoilers like the second after something drops. And it's so upsetting because, already before, in the past, I always had the attitude of like, oh, I want to be the first to see something when it comes out. And now I just have the attitude because I need to see it before it comes out, or else I won't be able to use any social media because it'll be ruined
exactly.
for me.
I was about to say there's the common thing of stay off social media because this Mandalorian comes out this week and stuff.
How about we keep it off social media?
Yeah,
that would
I think
be great.
there should be a grace period of a week.
I know. It's
where
and
people
I mean,
can't talk about things, because there was one aspect about this season that I know after it happened, everybody was talking about it.
Yeah.
So, and the other thing I wanted to bring up was, everything we discuss now, whether we like something or we don't like something, or whether we say something is good or valid, that is our opinion. And if you don't like something that we like, if you like something that we don't, you're not wrong for having those opinions. These are just
you're
how
wrong.
we feel.
I want to correct. They're wrong. Well, our opinions are
we speak the true
for everything.
So yeah, okay. Mandalorian Season 2 originally ran from October 30th, 2020 to December 18th, 2020. We all know what day that is. And showrunner, like Season 1, Jon Favreau. And the budget, so this one was where my journalistic endeavors turned up short, because I could not find any
I don't
exact figure for what the budget was for Season 2.
I can't imagine that it is much less than the first season. I think it's about the same, if not a little more.
Season 1 was reportedly $15 million per episode.
Yeah, and we still got the same 8-episode run.
Right.
And I think what they said, though, is that the first season was still a lot of it was just investment in the technology and just getting everything available, and it would free up a lot of the budget for Season 2 that they could allocate it in different areas, which I think shows,
Yes, absolutely.
So I think we're just going to stick with that. Now I have the brief synopsis that I think I used in the first episode. It's still the same. It's the travels of a lone bounty hunter in the outer reaches of the galaxy, far from the authority of the New Republic, or so we think.
Bum, bum.
So, well, that's my addition right there. But yeah, man, this is number 1, 8 episodes again. Come on, you're killing me, Disney.
Well, it's funny because right now, I feel like, if you look at our last handful of episodes, we've been like, WandaVision just started. WandaVision's been going on. We're going into I think the 4th week of WandaVision now on Disney Plus, and it's there's a new episode dropping tomorrow. Yes.
I know.
Oh my god, it's so good. It's such a good show, and
do you like the
understand
fact that we promote other shows while we record other shows, things that are happening. We did that with Fargo season 4. And I still think people should go watch it.
Seriously,
and now this is a WandaVision, and then what's going to happen is Succession season 3 is going to come out, and I'm going to be all over that, and then Better Call Saul season 6 is going to come out, and you're going to be all over that, and
in I think a month, Falcon and the Winter Soldier starts.
Oh my god,
there's too much stuff. Too much
content.
But with WandaVision, it's 9 episodes, and each episode is 20 minutes.
Are they 20? I feel like it's closer to an hour, or not an hour, but at least
no.
They're
like 30 minutes, and a good I want to say 7 minutes of it is all of the international credits.
Oh,
because Disney Plus does their credits weird, but dude, whatever. 8 episodes.
That last episode seemed a lot longer than I thought.
Yeah. It's just a good show. I can't believe there's so many people who are they watched the first 2 episodes and they said, "Where's this going? It's not going anywhere. There's not enough."
Oh my
God. And I'm like, it's called pacing, you guys. What is up with the internet and just demanding instant, gratification?
Okay, but I have some things about that we'll talk later. But it's not necessarily instant gratification, but not everything can be Netflix, guys.
Yeah. So I think personally, I think the pacing of WandaVision has been great. Mm-hmm. I have loved the slow build up to some of the crazy reveals that have been going on, and I can't wait to see more tomorrow. But today,
tune in on a future episode of Script to Screen where we discuss WandaVision.
Yeah. So today, we're talking Mando season 2. Let's look at this cast. Obviously, a lot of people are returning from season 1. We got Pedro Pascal as Din Djarin, the Mandalorian. Giancarlo Esposito as the main antagonist, Moff Gideon.
There you go.
Gina Carano as Cara Dune.
Bingo.
The former drop trooper from the rebellion and good friend of Mr. Mando. And Carl Weathers pops up for an episode as Grief Karga.
He does.
Ming-Na Wen as Fennec Shand. I'm just going through the people
I thought
who...
she was dead.
Right? I'm just kind of going for the people who we've seen before. Bill Burr as Mayfeld, who I learned
Mayfeld.
I learned when doing this that his first name is Miggs.
I like the alliteration though; it's pretty great.
Yeah, and the Amy Sedaris was back, and just a bunch of Horatio Sands as Mithril. For people who like them.
Why and how I have no idea.
But we have a whole host of new characters. I want to say new, but a lot of the new cast to the show are just people playing older characters. So we have Katie Sackhoff reprising her role in live action as Bo-Katan Kryze.
Dude, that
she
announcement. I remember during the plannings of the show, the production on all that. That was a great announcement. I'm like, what? I liked her as Starbuck in Battlestar Galactica. So I thought, dude, that she's a great addition. She belongs in the galaxy far, far away.
And she does a great job. That's, a really interesting thing about this show is that, like, I can't think of another, like, example of where someone started off as the voice of a character and then portrayed that same character when brought to live action.
And
someone in the comments is furiously typing, "Oh, is this one time and this other thing?" And then we have another guy, kind of a not necessarily, I don't think he's a household name, but like if you know him, he's such a great actor. Tamora Morrison,
dude.
So his first time playing this particular role,
it's always been voice roles
in the flesh, because he redubbed some lines as Boba Fett for one of the re-releases of the original trilogy. But this is his first time actually playing the role of Boba. He of course played Jango Fett.
I was gonna say, do we even if you're listening to this podcast, do we even have to remind you that he was the Jango Fett and all the clones?
Captain Cody and all of them.
Yeah.
Did he do the voices in Clone Wars?
No, in Clone Wars they had D. Bradley Baker do all the voices.
Of course they had D. Bradley Baker.
But I mean, like, D. Bradley Baker's voice, obviously he's not Tamora Morrison, but he became one in his own right, and the Star Wars fan base loves him.
When the Bad Bunch comes out, is it just going to be D. Bradley Baker in like 5 voice roles?
I want to say yes, just because. Well, actually, no. I think some of them they don't use his voice. It's like 2 of them they use other guys.
Okay.
But because there's like supposed to be like kind of genetically different clones.
Right.
Like the Commandos.
They're the ones who went bad.
Exactly. Actually, it's set in a time frame that I'm super interested in. But anyways. He really, I think in the behind the scenes that he really said that he tried to make them so different from one another, and usually it's the same tone for all the other guys. It's just the inflection's different. Versus them, I think the tone and inflection are both different.
Yeah.
So I mean, still, he does a great job.
But Tamora Morrison in this as Boba Fett.
Oh God.
An absolute.
I don't want to.
Just. I think one of the best additions to the season, and coming from me, who I can be pretty critical of Star Wars, and I remember when they started talking about season 2 before it was coming out, and they said we're gonna have this, we're gonna have that, and Boba Fett's gonna be it, and I went, God damn it, Boba Fett, like the dude who got killed on accident, Boba Fett, and I have for a long time championed the idea of Boba Fett was never cool. He was always like implied to be cool, but it was a lot of telling and not showing. But I'm happy to say,
what's funny is that it was barely any telling in the actual franchise. It was more of like telling by the fan base.
He just stood around and nodded at people.
He was iconography, is what he was.
He stood around. Yeah, exactly. He stood around. He nodded at people, and then at one point he wrapped up Luke Skywalker in his wrist cable.
This is coming from us two that we were not alive in the 70s when Star Wars was coming out in the 80s when he was really
He literally
introduced,
was,
and everybody was so obsessed with him, and we're like shitting on these people's dreams right now. I can hear it right now.
because of a toy. Because of a toy. But that's okay.
He was a badass toy. I would have wanted that toy.
For sure. I can understand why people get excited about him, but like for me, I'm like, when it's all cards are all on the table.
Actually, you know what? I like the story twist that was in the holiday special with Boba Fett. That was great.
Oh yeah, I mean that was fun. For all of our listeners, if you haven't had the chance, please check out our episode covering the Star Wars holiday special. It's a blast. It's an
experience.
Like a religious experience.
Yeah.
Okay, back to the cast. This one was a major announcement. They kind of hid who she was playing, but Rosario Dawson joined the cast, and they didn't say who at first, but like
everybody assumed.
Everyone guessed like that, like immediately of like, oh, it's Ahsoka Tano. It's Ahsoka Tano, and Star Wars is like, I don't know, I can't say, and lo and behold, she was Ahsoka Tano.
So I mean, yeah, she was there. I think she did great.
Filoni's star child.
Yeah, we will get into her. I mean, dude, it's incredible to see. I know you hate how this galaxy far, far away seems like a galaxy down the lane. And everybody's next door neighbors.
A galaxy 100 square feet wide.
Exactly. But I gotta say, seeing all these characters, because I do love the animated series and all these other properties. So seeing a lot of these legacy characters be brought in, and it's just it warms my heart. It really does.
Yeah, and as somebody in my shoes, where I love Star Wars, but I am a bit more critical because I want it to be the best it can be, and sometimes I think they just settle for good enough. I was very happy with how a lot of stuff in this turned out, especially stuff that I'm not entirely fluent on, I guess you could say. But
I did write in my notes at some point I had to make a correction. Like, I really enjoyed something. I think it was in the Ahsoka episode, the Jedi, if you will. That I'm a hoe for Star Wars.
I probably to some extent have a bit of Star Wars hoishness in me. Yeah. But it's like, just I feel like I shouldn't have to lower my expectations because the creators of a particular thing didn't I should say I shouldn't have to lower my standards because the creators of something I like aren't up to the task. But as far as this goes, this current offering that we were given, I was not upset with that much. Yeah. I was upset with some stuff, but we'll get there. Other actors, because tons of different guest stars pop up on the show, but we have Timothy Olyphant, fantastic actor.
What a great year for him.
Yep, absolutely. Popped up as in the first episode of the season. Cobb Vanth. People were cheering this dude on to get his own spin-off after one episode. Honestly, I was like, yeah, he was good, but really, like a spin-off about a guy who lives in Tatooine and doesn't really have anyone like.
So I didn't know this, but he was introduced in one of the novels coming out
Shattered. What is it? Shattered Empire,
something like that.
Or Aftermath, I think it was.
Yeah, it was one of the ones that was coming out during the sequel trilogy run.
Yeah, it was like right after episode 7.
Which is cool. I like that they're pulling from, like I said, I'm a big fan when they pull from their own, sources. They can also create new stuff that's right. Heavily, what's the word? I want them to do that. It's encouraged. But Timothy Olyphant, he's a great actor. Character was interesting. In the context of the show, it was a great kind of gotcha, kind of, and also he's had a great year, dude. Between Fargo and then I know we talked about it. I think we talked about this before
the last Mandalorian episode. I think.
Yeah, I just gotta say, Timothy Olyphant. Wow, what a guy.
He's a great actor. But For the first scene of the new season, kind of like I think it was the cold open for the show, had John Leguizamo.
I was trying to decipher who he was.
He was the guy. He was the guy who was telling, who was talking to Mando in the when he goes to the fight.
Yeah, I was going to say, was he in the costume or was he just the voice?
I think he was just the voice.
But John Leguizamo is a good friend of Jon Favreau.
Yeah. He, for the little bit he had, it was good. We got Richard Ayoade. I don't know. People are gonna kill me for that. I know he's the guy from the IT crowd or whatever it's called. Funny English comedian. Titus Welliver. He shows up as a Imperial officer. He's just got one of the funnest names I think ever. Just sounds like a supervillain. Titus Welliver.
If it was Alistair Welliver, then he would be a supervillain.
And then Michael Biehn, for all you 1980s James Cameron movie fans. He showed up in Terminator, Aliens, the Abyss. He's in other movies besides that, but man, he and James Cameron for a while were like boom.
They were best buddies.
But yeah, I mean, tons of people. There's one other name I'm not going to mention until we get to him, because it was that was a fun and troubling reveal.
Yeah.
So yes.
All right. So for this first episode, our 8-episode run. We get the Marshal, our reintroduction. They started at 9. They didn't go back to 1 for new season. Actually, it's kind of what I've done with this podcast.
It's kind of just like, we're picking up where we left off.
Dude,
Mando's back on Tatooine. I wasn't thrilled about that, but
even before then, I think the setup, right? The cold open for the episode, you're put on this weird, strange nighttime planet, and then we get into this fight arena. I'm like, okay, this is some cool stuff.
Yeah, they had the what do you call them? I forget the name of the alien. The race of
the one that from Jabba's palace that they were there. I do forget their names as well.
Gamorreans.
There you go.
They were having a fight and stuff.
That was cool. I think we saw that in the trailer for this season.
I think that was like the big selling thing of he turns on the whistling birds. Baby Yoda, the child, activates his pod.
Dude, and then they bring back that kick-ass music or version of the theme from the first season. All the things that they want to play on our emotions are like, oh, remember how good the show was? They put it all in that one scene. And I mean, kind of quick too. I felt like, wow, this is a lot of great stuff, but why so soon? They just want to throw you back into it. I've said, I'm okay with the first episode of any season kind of just being a table setter, reacquaint the audience with the characters, with what they can do. And I feel like this is really what this episode was. It wasn't a very plot heavy episode. It's a side quest. He goes because he's looking for another Mandalorian. Yeah.
To point him in the direction of a Jedi. Again, I remember when the episodes were coming out, we were like, why is he looking for a Mandalorian to tell him where a Jedi is? But he goes to Tatooine. He meets a guy who's got Mandalorian armor, isn't a Mandalorian.
I mean, before that, we're just thinking oh, who's the only Mandalorian that we know that's on Tatooine?
Exactly, yeah. And wouldn't you know it, the guy is wearing Boba Fett's armor, even if he doesn't know it.
Yeah.
And so, I was fine with the episode just kind of just being a breeze, because it was like, whatever. This is just, if someone picked Mandalorian up on this episode, started at season 2 for whatever reason, they would know who the character was and what they're about, and it was fine.
It was another
cool.
Magnificent Seven type deal.
He goes to the town, he helps the town out, the town gives him something, he eats.
That's true. But then he also has to deal with the inter kind of racial problems between the people of this kind of missing mining town in Tatooine, and then the Sand people, and all the tensions that they have, but they have a common enemy and all that good stuff.
Giant. So I don't know if I wrote it here. It was an interesting thing of it was a mashup of genres, because we often get the space western with Star Wars, and we also get the space fantasy. But here I felt like it was kind of a good mashup of the two, because we get the lone wanderer type Mando showing up in this desert town, talking to the marshal, like using a very
kind of obvious indicator,
coded word, the marshal, for it being a western. But then their mission is to slay a dragon.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like this the two kind of ends of Star Wars meeting in the middle.
Yeah, but I mean, like, I gotta say, they let's talk about like the Star Warsy aspect, right? The Krayt Dragon. This is our first introduction to this beast in the world.
I made a note in this that they turned the Krayt Dragon into a kaiju, because in the original Star Wars we see C-3PO walking past the skeleton of a Krayt Dragon, and it's big but not that big. And I know in this episode the Krayt Dragon is massive.
Yeah, I think you wrote in the notes that this one's actually a greater Krayt Dragon.
Right. So yeah, I did some research. There are two different variants of the Krayt Dragon. Thank you, Wikipedia.
Let me ask you something. How often, this is a little off topic, but how often do you see in in like fantasy that they differentiate a beast and a bigger version of it with the term greater?
Well,
like you personally, because I have an anecdote about it that it's just it reminds me of this one thing specifically. I don't know if you've ever heard of the game RuneScape.
Yeah.
So my brother and I, Nicholas, shout out to you, I love you. Growing up, we loved playing this game. And it's just like I don't know, like knights and quests and fun middle age thing. I say middle age. Whatever the hell. Medieval theme things. And so there would be a beast called like a lesser demon, and then there would be another beast called a greater demon. Now that could be just a play on lesser and greater, that you'd have to like slay, but I don't know, it's just that's such a fun interesting indicator that they just differentiated the regular Krayt Dragon with like a greater Krayt Dragon.
It's just a greater. It's like, it's big.
It's like so obvious, but at the same time, I'm like, interesting.
Yeah, and then they drop little hints like, oh, this Krayt Dragon, it cleared out a Sarlacc pit, and you're like, ooh, who's the last person we saw go down a Sarlacc pit?
That's true.
This one was basically kind of a big fake out for Boba Fett. It was just like, we're gonna keep talking about him, but no, not making any promises. But overall, the whole idea of them coming together to take down the Krayt Dragon, it was cool. The special effects were very good, especially when showing this massive creature.
Yeah. And when you look at this in comparison to like the the Mudhorn in the first season.
Yeah.
And that whole bit, like the compositing between like, the stagecraft background and like the front and, just all the jetpack stuff around it, I would say, dude, it looked kind of kick ass. It looked
it was a very good effect. So they really they knocked it out of the park. And of course, by the end of it, Mando he makes some new friends, and he takes the armor from Cobb Vanth, and he heads on his way. And we get a little tease, a little peek at somebody watching
cameo,
Mando.
Almost. It was almost a cameo.
Who be there? It's Tamora Morrison.
You would only know it's Boba Fett if you know who Tamora Morrison's character is.
Exactly. That's what I love. If you don't know, you're like, who's this old guy? This guy just creeping on him from this cliff. And hey, you know what's also kind of weird is they don't touch on it for 5 more episodes. So, when you're binging it, I'm sure you'd be like, oh yeah, I saw him like 5 episodes ago, no big deal. But it's like when we were watching week to week, we're like, so are we not going to talk about how Boba Fett's
was he just like a 2-second thing? That would have been the worst. Honestly, I don't know if I could have lived with myself. Thankfully, though, they redeemed themselves, but At what cost? At the cost of 4
At
episodes?
what cost? Yeah,
But before we move on, I do want to say something
Yeah.
because I feel like Disney kind of used a little bit of a trope, or Lucasfilm with the Battle of the Krayt Dragon. It's
Yeah.
that Mando had to get eaten or go inside the Krayt Dragon to kill it, and I'm trying to think of how many other times has a person had to go inside of a beast to kill it from the inside, and I'm
It's
like,
like
okay,
in
Guardians of the Galaxy 2.
Iron
Iron
Man.
Man. I mean, the list goes on. I mean, just in Disney properties alone, like
Also-
the list is out there.
Also, just another instance of Star Wars characters having zero regard for animal lives, because
You brought this up before, didn't you?
yeah, and there's actually, I think, a really funny video. Shout out to one of my favorite YouTube channels, Mr. Sunday Movies. But they kind of compiled like all these instances where people in Star Wars just attack animals and just brutalize animals, whether it's the Tauntauns, whether it's the Mudhorn in season 1 that was just minding its own business.
I would love to see like a Star Wars thing where they just love and enjoy all life and are not hating on it. We're like the hippies of
But, like,
the
I
Star
realized
Wars universe.
The Krayt Dragon was messing up the town, so it's like, okay, fine, gotta get rid of that one. It's a threat. But then like Mando just like he lures the Krayt Dragon out and then straps explosives to a bantha and has the Krayt Dragon eat the bantha so he can explode the bantha inside of it, killing both the bantha and the Krayt Dragon. I'm like, why did you need the bantha? Like, you could have just thrown the explosives into the Krayt Dragon's mouth.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's like needlessly killing a cow. I don't know. I don't know why it bothers me, but it's just whatever. We're moving on.
Yeah. So that next episode, all right, well, I mean, overall, that first episode, it's still like, in our quest, he didn't find the Mandalorian. He found some armor, and now he's got to figure out what the hell he's got to do.
Right, and so I think we both agreed this was like a kind of like a 7.5 out of 10. Just, it was good.
Yeah, it was all right.
We'll move on to
this next episode for me. I don't know about you. This one, it maybe had one or two redeemable aspects, and the rest I really did not give a shit about.
Right, yeah. So, okay, Chapter 10, The Passenger, directed by Ant-Man's Peyton Reed.
Cool.
Well, yeah, it was very cool.
We should add that Deborah Chow did not do any of these season 2 episodes because she's so busy with
getting
the
ready.
Obi-Wan Kenobi.
You saw the meme where it was like season 3 of Mandalorian has been delayed, and it's the shot of Anakin from Revenge of the Sith where he's like, because of Obi-Wan.
That's great. I don't think so. I think it's because of Boba Fett, though.
Maybe.
I think. Oh, well, we'll get to that later.
But so okay, Chapter 10, Passenger, Peyton Reed. This episode was kind of just filler. It's Mando gets saddled with transporting this woman, this frog lady. We'll get to her. She has a brood of eggs that can't go through hyperspace because of plot reasons, because they needed to kill an episode, and
for whatever reason,
it's because they needed to kill an episode.
Yeah.
But they said, well, we have 7 episodes worth of story, and this is what we got to do. They had actually 6 episodes of story. We'll get to that later. But
I think their excuse was that she knew someone that could lead him to Mandalorians on the planet where she was going. So and we got some fun creature action again.
So yes, that's what I want to highlight on this. This episode was basically forgettable. It's mainly just Mando learning he's got to be a good parent with the child, who eats the frog lady's eggs,
unborn children.
I don't know if it was meant to be a joke or just
I want to correct myself. I don't want to take that stance of unborn children. They were unfertilized eggs.
Right, yeah. We gotta. That's a moral question, but anyway, the one standout thing about this episode is the what do they call them? Krykna spiders. They swarm Mando and Frog Lady. There's that great moment where you see the frog lady like running, and then she moves into like frog mode and starts hopping.
Yeah.
But this is a thing we don't really see in Star Wars really ever, at least not in the live action offerings. I don't know about the show, the like Clone Wars Rebels, but survival horror has never been like something we get in Star Wars, and this is.
I mean, I welcome it. Like I said, if Star Wars wants to try something new, like great.
Absolutely.
Like this episode was. I mean, it was just bad in terms of like the overall arc of and story of the show, but I mean, production wise, still a great episode. They had some cool themes that they tried some new things. If they mattered, that would have been better, but they didn't. So here's what I
say is like, one thing we see with this season is that a lot of the filler from season 1 was given more kind of context and importance with the story. So I don't know if
like in this episode, it was giving context.
Yeah, and like season 3, I wonder if like season 3 they'll be like, well, I'm trying to kill Mando because he torched my entire Krykna spider farm.
Yeah, that would be interesting. But I mean, we get that thing where the New Republic finds him to like, hey, did you set those prisoners free and then put them back in for killing that guy and then blow up the place? And they're like, yeah, that was me. He's like, all right, well, we're not going to arrest you, but we're also not going to help you. So
yeah, exactly. Well, they help him by killing the Kryknas. But,
that's it.
But yeah,
we should give a shout out to the Krykna, because the fact that they use that and kind of the original concept art by Ralph McQuarrie. Yeah, that was pretty awesome.
That was very cool.
That's probably the best part about the show. I love when they use a lot of his unused designs. It's not often we get that. I don't know if you're familiar with this, but in Rebels, the animated series,
they use a lot of it, right?
They so much, but it's so good. Like they use his original designs for Vader.
Yeah, I was about to say
it looks so good.
That's cool. I can appreciate that.
So I mean, when they bring you back any of his stuff, it's great, and I appreciate that. But yeah, this is an interesting episode. I guess we also get like the Razor Crest gets its first bit of damage of this season.
Yeah, it gets hurt pretty bad
to the point where they can only be in the bridge of the ship, and everywhere else is like, nope, it's a vacuum in space, and you can't go there.
So just a good kind of fillery episode. Some very cool horror tinged moments that are unique for Star Wars, and I always like to see originality, especially for something that is very tropey with Star Wars, where it's like, of course, we're gonna get the Jedi story, we're gonna get the Sith story, we're gonna get the Rebels and the Empire, or if you want to call them the Resistance and the First Order. It's all the same thing. It's all the same. So get
quoting the great Kylo Ren right there.
Yeah, let the past die. But no, I mean, it's cool that like, man, we got a survival horror episode of Mandalorian. That's pretty rad. But thankfully, that's kind of where the meandering ends.
For the most part.
For the most part, but from here on out, it is just kind of just the plot is actually progressing.
Yeah.
So we got chapter 11, The Heiress.
Dude, this episode was awesome.
Yeah, it was cool. Directed by Bryce Dallas Howard.
Dude, and she brought her A game. Definitely a big step up from like the episode she did.
What is she?
Prior.
She did the one about.
Was it the Village? Was it called that?
She did the Magnificent Seven.
The first Magnificent Seven episode.
But yeah, absolutely an improvement. Because they actually gave her something to work with, because I think in season 1 they're like, oh, you just get this throwaway filler episode. But here it's like she actually got like legitimate, like important to the forward momentum of the series content. And
all right, so without further ado, we finally get a lot of our questions answered, from like the very first season. That's the what happens when Din Djarin meets other Mandalorians, especially ones that don't, concede to the same ideals that he does.
Right. So I think one thing you and I have both had questioned a lot before this episode was what is going on with the canon, because like, you know, that they showed Mandalorians taking their helmets off previously.
Yeah, like when were they going to address that? How
Fetts,
soon?
The Fetts, like Jango Fett took his helmet off a lot, and we said, okay, so where do you draw the line? And then there was talk if the Fetts were legitimate Mandalorians, and then finally we get this episode where the answer is that Mando himself, Din Djarin, is a member of, what do they call themselves?
He's a part of the Children of the Watch, which I can only assume are a sect or like a spin-off.
Right, they're referred
Death
to
Watch.
as they're referred to as zealots by Bo-Katan. This is the episode of Bo-Katan, first one anyway, and Katie Sackhoff.
Can I just say something? Is that
Yeah.
I like this. Not that I do like the prequels. I do. But when new Star Wars tries to go back and reincorporate like religious ideals over like science in terms of like culture and things like Jedi and Mandalorians, like when they call the Children of the Watch like zealots, like religious zealots, like that makes me feel good that they're kind of going back to the roots of like people
of Star Wars.
Yeah, pretty much. And
because like I always think of like the original Star Wars, how the Force is often cited as being a religion.
Like Tarkin says it in the first episode.
First movie.
Well, I mean, I say episode.
Episode 4. Excuse me.
Yeah.
And Han Solo, who calls it a hokey religion and kind of writes it off. By the end of it, he's proven wrong, because the Force does play an integral role in saving the day. So,
but I mean, even in The Last Jedi, Luke says like the Jedi religion, something like that. And I mean, it was a good moment. It was great.
Yeah. So seeing that here, it was a nice touch, and it answers our question. The reason the Mandos in season 1 didn't take their helmets off is because they are just extremists. And kind of like how I was hoping it would turn out, where everyone who's not part of Mando's tribe was like, that's not
we're gonna call it a clan.
That's not a thing, bro. No one just leaves their helmet on all the time. What the hell?
Yeah. But
I'm pretty sure even one of Bo-Katan's people is like, oh, he's one of them.
Yeah, it's what's his name? They don't really give him much screen time after this episode. The man who's the guy that's
the homeboy.
What's his name? Give me the wretched name. I it's funny. I have the
Simon Cassianidis.
But what's the name of his
character? The character's name Axe Woves.
Yeah. He gives the look, because Koshka Reeves, excuse me. She's just like played by Sasha Banks.
Yeah.
She's kind of like there for this episode. She gets a lot better, I guess, kind of, in some of the later episodes, but
she's fine. But yeah, both, they're all kind of like weirded out by Mando.
But it's kind of he's put in an interesting position, right? Because we go to Bo-Katan, who was for all you Clone Wars fanatics, she was like the heir to Mandalore. Her sister was the last ruler of Mandalore, like the proper ruler, before the Empire, kind of came in and sacked the city and planet. So what is she doing here after the siege of Mandalore on this random planet with just these 2 other Mandalorians? Like, where's the rest of Clan Kryze and all of her followers? And then
I mean, I think the stuff with Bo-Katan, it's there's a lot of history there.
It just brings up a lot of questions.
Yeah, I think with it's cool, and I hope they delve into more of her stuff. I hope that we get more information, more backstory with her. Well, maybe not backstory, because we know her backstory. You know her backstory. I haven't watched it yet, but
where are they going to take her character in the future? Like, now we know her main goal. It's to get back the Darksaber and take back Mandalore. And
right, of course. And we're gonna get into that whole Darksaber nonsense later. But you know what's cool? They go on their mission. They're basically just stealing weapons from an Imperial frigate, and it's cool because you get to see like 4 Mandalorians fighting at once. Yeah, and they're all like on top of their game. We see the how the Empire deals with this, with their officers, and like how easily they're like, yeah, just crash the ship, kill yourselves, for the greater good. We get, I think this is the first episode we're reintroduced back into Moff Gideon. And yeah, it's I think this was a cool episode. Definitely, I feel like it gave the best bit of like momentum going forward.
Oh, this is where we get our Titus Welliver.
Titus Welliver as just a dude who's having a real... Wait, was he this one or was he...
He was this one. He was the guy
that I was thinking he was the one
his tooth and electrocuted himself instead of giving them the information that she wanted.
Yes, that is correct. Okay.
Yes.
So, moving on.
Overall, great action. I'd give it... This ranks very highly in the episodes of this season.
Yeah, I gave it like an 8 out of 10.
Yeah. But then I feel like the follow-up is kind of a step back.
Yes, absolutely. The Siege, directed by Carl Weathers. I wrote this. Carl Weathers directing Star Wars. I never thought I'd see the day.
That's not the first time you wrote that for this season.
It is the first time I wrote it. It's not the last time.
Yeah, that's what that is.
But yeah, this one was just kind of meh. It's like we get to check back in with our season 1 cast episode. We got Grief Karga, we got Cara Dune, we got Mithril. Dr. Pershing shows up at one point in a hologram. Just kind of like, hey, remember all this stuff from season 1?
We get some more thoughts about the cloning and the M counts and what does this all mean?
Yeah,
and to be honest, it only points in one direction, and
exactly.
Any theories outside of that, I feel like are irresponsible.
I thoroughly am not crazy about where this whole story beat's going, but what can you do? The one thing I will say I liked about this,
we got a meme out of this one. Remember, the internet was going crazy for like the guy in the shirt and the jeans in the background of all the action.
Oh yeah, this is the one with the t-shirt and jeans guy.
Yeah, everyone's with his favorite arm and watch.
The most popular character in Star Wars since Manny Bothans.
Dude.
But what was the one thing the one thing that really bothered me about this episode, and is like, okay, so in chapter 9, Mando leaves the child with Pelimoto, Amy Sedaris' character, because he knows her. He knows her, he trusts her, she's proven herself, so it's like, okay, you can watch the child. In the last episode, the heiress, he leaves
the Frog family.
Frog Lady. Oh, by the way, I didn't mention this. Why did they name her? Why doesn't she get a name? There are characters in Star Wars so minuscule that but have names. The guy from Attack of the Clones who goes, "Hey, you want to buy some death sticks?" His name is Elon Sleazebagano. So why doesn't Frog Lady have a name? I'm mad about it.
Oh God!
I literally looked it up. She was never given a name.
I don't know, man.
Lazy. The death stick guy got a name.
You want to buy some death sticks? You don't want to sell me death sticks. I don't want to sell you this.
I don't want to say any death sticks.
I love that scene in the club.
I know that is peak McGregor Obi-Wan.
Yeah.
But fine, he leaves the child with Frog Lady in the last episode, and it's like, fine, he knows her, he trusts her, the kid will be safe there. But then this episode, he's like, oh, I'm just going to leave the kid at this school, who I don't know anyone there. And it's like,
school, bro. What's the worst that could happen?
I was like, if you don't want to bring the child along, just try a little harder. Again, I shouldn't have to lower my standards because they're not doing the hard work.
Yeah. We did get that cute moment where he got like the blue macaroon cookies.
Oh yeah, that was funny.
That was.
Only other thing is this one had that cool canyon chase. And there was that one cool shot of the scout troopers on the speeder bikes like leaping off the side of the cliff.
Yeah.
And one of them just dying upon impact when they hit the bottom.
Let me tell you though, this episode had a lot of cool action. But how much does action weigh in terms of story?
Exactly. Well, yeah. Yes. Exactly. We're gonna. Thank you. We're going to I want
all my audience cheers. I would like to accept this award on behalf of
You
the
said
Star
the
Wars
correct
fan base,
thing.
or actually of what the Star Wars fan base should aspire to be.
Yes.
Thank you.
No, we'll get to that because what you just said touches on something that we'll cover towards the end of our coverage. This episode was fine. I give it like a 6.5. It was there. It was there.
So that's what let's count.
The best
3 episodes of like sort of filler.
Yeah, but you know what's the best thing about that is that this was the last filler episode of the season, and the rest from here to the end is just
heavy hitters,
meat.
Yeah, really good stuff.
So this next one, chapter 13, The Jedi.
This is probably the most anticipated episode of the season, I want to say.
So written and directed by Dave Filoni. And Chris, you know me.
You don't like Dave Filoni.
Listeners, if you listen to our first Mandalorian season coverage, you know I did not like episode 5. I thought it was a bad excuse for television. I thought
the gunslinger, right?
The gunslinger. It was just fan service for the sake of having fan service. It wasn't clever fan service. It wasn't like interesting. It was a terrible time spent watching something. I hated every second of it, and it really made me kind of sad for Star Wars. I was like, this is what Star Wars has become. So going into season 2, I was like, oh, Dave Filoni is directing another episode, and it's probably going to be the one where he puts his character in, and how bad's it going to be? Let me tell you something. I was actually really happy with this episode.
Yeah, I do want to spend some time on this episode, but I realized there's a lot. You and I wrote a good amount of notes on this one, but
we wrote a lot of notes.
The one thing that we didn't write about, which I guess I'll get off the bat first and foremost. This one is the most Star Wars episode of
Absolutely.
All this, and it's because it takes the original inspiration from Akira Kurosawa and just throws it back on screen, just like George Lucas did. And I know that's Dave Filoni's relationship with George Lucas. He would pull from that same source and say, like, yes, this is like what I want.
Well, I think what also helped was like, okay, so like season 1, we got all this Star Wars stuff, but everyone in season 1 was an original character. And this is the first time with Mando where we're getting a character who has a well, I guess not the first time because there was Bo-Katan, but the first time we have someone with a direct connection to like the Skywalkers and the central, I think, driving force of the Star Wars universe, which is the Jedi. So having that anchor here, yeah, we're finally, things happen in this episode and you can immediately trace to like, oh, that is because of this one moment, in episode 3 or in Clone Wars or something,
Yeah.
And I think
I think just this episode starts off super strong. It immediately gives us our missing Jedi.
Yeah.
It gives us and I say missing in the sense that like we had no idea who or what we were going to see Ahsoka Tano in what context, and dude, it's awesome.
Yeah, Rosario Dawson does a fantastic job as Ahsoka. She kicks ass, she takes names, but she really conveys the history behind the character. And I'm not caught up with her story. I don't know every detail of it, but there are moments where the way she delivers a line or the way she carries herself, where I'm like, yeah, I sense the history of this character, what she's been through.
I think the way she does that, like, and I will credit Dave Filoni for this as he's listed as the writer, is because that they found a way to do it kind of so simplistically, without shoving everything in your face. About who she is and what her background, where she comes from, but it's mostly in just the interaction she has with, Din Djarin and and the child and the people of this town.
I want to say, I feel like if episode chapter 5, the Gunslinger, was a necessary evil we had to endure for him to understand how to properly cater to fans while still delivering a solid episode. I'm okay accepting that the gunslinger was just bad. It needed to be bad. Because, yeah, the way he references things in Star Wars, the way this episode is written, is really solidly done.
Yeah. And
I think...
overall, I feel like, I mean, I don't know. And there's also a lot of good reveals in this episode, too. Like,
yeah. So, we just kind of like going down the line, we get Beskar is lightsaber proof. I don't like it. I know, you know, this is just a pure taste thing. I, for one, think it makes things boring, because I always like the idea of, okay, this is a character who's not going to necessarily get into a sword fight with somebody like we see all the time in Star Wars, and that presents really interesting scenarios where, like, oh, they're gonna have to problem solve their way to this win. But no, he has armor that specifically deflects lightsabers, and then by the end of the episode he has a spear made of the same stuff and can use it as basically a sword.
So, I mean, I wrote that I disagree with this. Like, I don't think it's
again I'm not saying it is wrong.
No,
I'm saying like, I don't
from me
like
to you.
it.
From me, yeah, I know why you don't like it. But as being an experienced Star Wars fan that I am, and I, you know, in the expanded universe before Disney bought Star Wars, they had explained that, you know, Boba Fett's armor, while Durasteel, not Beskar,
right.
Or I guess Jango Fett's, that's also lightsaber proof, because in the culture of the Mandalorians, is because Mandalorians and Jedi, as we learned, and also we're reminded in this episode, they were not friends, they were foes by many.
Right.
That's why there was the Civil Wars and all these things. So what the Mandalorians did, they developed metals and materials that could combat, I mean, the weapons of the Jedi,
I
the
mean,
lightsabers.
I understand that. I'm not saying that I'm not implying that the reasoning isn't there. I'm just saying that as a decision creatively for the sake of like writing conflict, I think it's boring, because it then we have now gone from a character who maybe could present a whole new way of fighting and a whole new way of combating somebody with a lightsaber. You know, maybe he has to jetpack around them, he has to shoot them, he has to use stealth, he has to be creative. Now he can just use his big lightsaber-proof stick to beat the crap out of him, like literally every other Star Wars fight. Maybe. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just saying I personally don't like it.
I don't know. I feel like at the same time, I kind of like the idea. Now it just comes back to like it's just all based off skill. Who's more skillful with a blade?
Well, sure, but that's boring. It's like, if I wanted that, I could watch any of the Star Wars movies.
I don't know. I still enjoy that.
Again,
like I said, I think this is the part of my notes where I wrote, I'm a hoe for Star Wars.
That's fine. No, you can be. I'm a hoe for Star Wars, but I just like.
But I'm a bigger hoe.
I crave that originality that has just been in such short supply. You know, it's like, yes, is a pure Beskar steel spear cool? Sure, but if it just results in characters getting into another sword fight, I've seen it before. Show me something I haven't seen. Like, the reason I like Mando is a completely different set of things as to why I like any of the Jedi characters like Luke or Obi-Wan. I like those characters because they're kind of like space samurai. I don't need Mando to be a space samurai. I want him to be a space gunslinger. That's kind of why I bought into it. If I wanted to see him become a Jedi or have a skill set similar to Jedi, he wouldn't be Mando.
I don't know, because like, I'm going to bring back the whole EU crap. Or at least I'll bring up the Knights of the Old Republic series, right? The games that came out. When they explored the Mandalorian culture, you know, you would hear the Mandalores, Canderous Ordo, if you will, discuss, you are not liking this at all.
No, listen. I think the justification of it is fine. Like the lore, I agree.
He just
it's
said
there.
that Mandalorians have to be skilled and versatile in multiple different forms of combat. Including range and
the
melee styles.
the lore reasons I'm 100% fine with. I acknowledge them as being valid and supportive of their subject matter. But from a writing perspective, I don't like it because I think it just leads to, and then they got into a sword fight like everyone else has always gotten into a sword fight.
I want to quote the great Lando Calrissian. I don't like it. I don't agree with it, but I accept it.
Yeah,
Because
whatever.
You can't not accept it.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, let's go on to things I did like. Rosario Dawson. I said we said she does a great job. But she provides one of the things that kind of changed Mando going forward. She gave the child his name, basically. She was the first one to say it, Grogu.
Dude, when this scene was happening on TV, they met, and then the child's there, and then her and Grogu are just kind of looking at each other. I swear to God, the questions that were running through my mind are like, oh, I wonder if they're communicating through the Force. Like, I wonder if she knows his name. And then we get that second later where she's like, oh, it's Grogu. He's like, Grogu? And he's like, that's his name. I'm like, oh my God. And not to mention, that name was so perfect.
Yeah.
I couldn't have been happier to find out that his name was Grogu. I don't know.
Yeah.
Anise and I, we looked at each other. We're like, his name is Grogu. That's so adorable and so awesome at the same time. I don't know if I can handle this exact moment.
Yeah, it was great. And, even like Mando, his whole like reaction to it is really good. But then there was another moment I thought was just it was fantastic, and that's when Mando's like, okay, so you can train him, right? And she's like, no. And I loved it because it was a great subversion. My big fear going into this is that Dave Filoni was going to kind of sideline Mando in his own show to support his own character. And he kind of did that because Mandalorian season 2 was kind of just a springboard for a lot of other shows that they were testing the waters for.
You know what's crazy is that we didn't find that out till a little after, like the show is not necessarily ending, but like on its way to its final episodes. And I don't think that was fair to us as the audience.
I think it was just I think it's like, this show should have just been Mandalorian, not Disney tries out Star Wars ideas and sees what sticks.
What happened? When was that Disney investor meeting or whatever?
D23?
No. They had the other one. I mean, I think they canceled D23 this year, but it happened in December where they released the entire slate, but it was during an investor meeting, and
it was. I'm
like, wow, this is Disney overload.
I think it was right after this episode, because it was before they announced the Boba Fett show.
There was something
Book of Boba Fett.
Yeah, there was something different about it.
It might have been after this. I don't know.
But if you look back at like Hall H for Marvel, and whenever we got the announcements, like it was met with like so much praise and so much awesomeness that there's, for some reason, when they announced all the Star Wars, I feel like
it's because Star Wars has never been that. It's never been like, look at all these things we have. It was always kind of like, well, here's another thing in the world of Star Wars. Here's one more thing. Here's a new movie. Here's a show.
I'm becoming more open to the idea now that we're getting all this content. Just because it's like, I see they're making improvements and everything's going well, and
I hope they're making improvements, because when I see it's like, oh, we're getting a Bad Bunch show, or we're getting a Boba Fett show. It's like, I hope it's not just they're chasing trends and they think it's gonna work.
Yeah.
Because not everything lends itself to a show, and I'm not saying these things are inherently going to be bad, but it's like,
you know what I'm upset about? It was a few years ago when they announced. It's like in the same week they announced, and then they threw out the project that how the way they were going to handle Boba Fett was a standalone movie helmed by James Mangold. Who gave us Logan. He just did Ford v Ferrari. He did the Johnny Cash. What is it?
Walk
Ring
the
of
Line.
Fire. Walk the Line. That's what it was. This super talented director. He was nominated for an Academy Award for Logan. I love this filmmaker and everything he's ever made. And then like the week later, they trashed the project because of the failure that was Solo, the commercial failure, I should say. I like that movie. And now they're doing all these things with all these people. I'm like, okay, but like, you got to just make sure the people you're picking are people that are really passionate about some of this stuff. Gotta say. So, I mean, listen.
Yeah, I think, I'm sure the shows will be good. I just like, I think, like, even this episode, it had that bad thing of, like, Ahsoka beat, what's her name, Elsbeth or whatever, and she's just like, where is Thrawn? And I'm like, cool, if you know who Thrawn is.
I had an interesting anecdote with that, is that I knew who Thrawn is. I know that they brought
Well,
it back.
yeah, we're Star Wars hoes.
Yeah, but like I watched that episode again with my dad, and it was his first time watching it, and he flipped out. He's like, "Oh my god, Thrawn, like from the Timothy Zahn novels from the 90s?" I'm like, "Yeah, you don't know they brought him back?" And he was super excited. I said, "Oh, that's an interesting perspective."
But I wanna. That's wonderful because that's why you do why what they're hoping is that he reach those fans who know the stuff and go, wow, that's great. A character I like is back. But I think of the other half of the audience who's like, what the hell was the ending of that? It was nothing. It didn't contribute to the season, and therein lies, I think, one of the biggest problems of this season is that they were just too busy setting up other things to focus on the thing that was actually going on. If I have one criticism about this episode, it's that, and the fact that they gave Michael Bihn's character a name when he had less than 10 minutes of screen time, and they didn't give Frog Lady a name.
My biggest gripe with this episode is that they're going to reintroduce the HK droids, assassin droids, into this franchise,
killers,
and not even give them any sort of honor that they deserve on screen. Versus like, they don't have that iconic voice and sassy attitude and just incredible presence on screen that we got from the Knights of the Old Republic series or the Old Republic MMO video games. And they're just gonna kind of throw them off, like, and they don't even fucking look like them. That's just my nitpick.
But overall, great episode. Especially great. for a non-believer like me in the Filoni way. I did like this episode. He did a great job. Props to him. I gotta give it to him. So let's, I think we gotta kind of pick up the pace a little bit on some of these episodes because we have a lot of notes. We wrote a lot of notes because these last 4 episodes were so just dense.
Yeah, I think we got time.
But Chapter 14, The Tragedy, directed by Robert Rodriguez.
I gotta say though, I know Robert Rodriguez. He's a big guy. He's done a lot of things, and people love him. But at the same time, I think I'm like, do I love any of his movies? Like, actually,
Desperado, Spy Kids, Machete.
Yeah, but do I love those?
I love them because they're schlocky.
Didn't he do Alita Battle Angel?
Yes,
he directed it, and James Cameron was the producer on that.
And you know what? I liked Alita Battle Angel. I thought it was cool.
I still haven't seen it.
For anime adaptation, I don't think too many have been done as well as that.
Are you poking names? I don't know. Maybe one Scarlett Johansson.
Ghost in the Shell was not good, but I mean, I'm even thinking like Dragon Ball Evolution.
Oh God.
One day, I think we both agree that one day we want to talk about the Wachowskis' Speed Racer.
Yeah, but that's a good one.
But anyway, this isn't anime or screen. Robert Rodriguez. I wrote Robert Rodriguez directing Star Wars. I never thought I'd see the day.
And actually, did you see that behind the scenes thing where he's like playing guitar and whoever's puppeteering Grogu next to him is like flopping his ears around, having a good time? It's awesome, definitely. Super entertaining.
Really good stuff.
The follow-up documentary series for the show, like The Gallery, The Mandalorian, super well done. We get to see all the great stuff. They followed it up almost immediately after the season ended. Super good.
Yeah,
stuff.
it's always good to see like the behind the scenes stuff. Makes you appreciate it so much more.
It did. It really did, especially for this episode. I mean, because this episode had so much. We're brought to Tython, this ancient Jedi planet that came from the Knights of the Old Republic series.
Right.
Brought into here.
Real fast, I want to just say up front, this, I think you said it best. This title, The Tragedy, is the most clickbaity name for an episode of this season. Yeah. Because again, I have to think about it in terms of like, I know writing, I know how stories are done. This isn't like I am a smarter than you type thing. It is something that plenty of people can recognize. Stories unfold in a very particular way.
Please, Zachary, give us your credentials. This is your time to shine.
No, but no one in the right mind when at the end of this episode, spoilers, at the end of the episode, Grogu gets taken away by the the Empire. No one in the right mind was like, oh, the kid's gonna die. It was like, no, eventually Mando will get him back because he's a hero and it's not that kind of show.
Let me tell you something. When I saw the title, The Tragedy, I didn't necessarily assume the worst. I just assumed, okay, something bad's going to happen.
Right, something bad's going to be happening, but the tragedy? I'm like, yeah, it sucks, but I mean,
it was pretty fucking tragic. My heart was broken.
I was more sad for the Razor Crest because I knew he was going to get the kid back eventually, but I was like, oh, that ship is gone.
Yeah.
But hey, like you were saying, they go to Tython, because they're gonna go and put Grogu on an ancient ruin, basically, that he's going to be able to project his force out into the galaxy, and a Jedi, will find him to train him. So they go, and wouldn't you know it, Tython's just kind of a bland wasteland.
Which is another super upsetting thing that they brought from my favorite series of Star Wars Legacy, the Old Republic series.
Right.
And Tython was a vast planet full of life and just really awesome shit. And I can't imagine that in the time, I guess the 25 years that had passed, that it just all went to shit and it's just nothing. And I'm like, that's super disappointing.
Yeah.
But, that's not the main focus of this episode because we almost immediately after we get there and Grogu does his thing, we get like one of the thing we've been waiting for. The reveal, the Slave One.
Boom, just coming in, instantly recognizable, cuts a very, very clear silhouette where you're like, I know that ship, I know who's in it.
Dude, that was such a great reveal. I'll tell you what, I was surprised at some point because I forgot that, Fennec Shand was found. So when we see her first, I'm like, oh shit. Or did we see her first? I forget. Or we got her. No,
because she was up sniping.
Yeah, I liked her mechanical belly. That she's like, yeah. Sometimes the world spits back or something like that. I forget what he said.
yeah. But anyway, big picture, Boba Fett is here, and for the first time in Star Wars history, I can say without a doubt that Boba Fett is a badass.
Dude.
Because, man, Robert Rodriguez, he is known for his action, and he came to play. Because the action in this episode is so visceral. It's so hard-hitting. Like when Boba Fett is taking down the stormtroopers with just his, what's the stick called? He's got that big, curved staff.
There is a name for it. I'm blanking on it a little bit right now, but I mean, when they talked about it in the behind the scenes, Tamora Morrison talked about how it kind of reminded him of a staff used in New Zealand culture.
Yeah.
Which is, I mean, I'm not gonna that was awesome. One, I like how they included a lot of that. A gaffy stick.
Yeah.
And he got to kind of embed his real identity into the character of Boba Fett as well.
Yeah.
Which is super way to go, Disney and Lucasfilm for letting him not only take on this character, actually fully embody him and make his presence be known, but to do it with such care and I mean it really shows in the final product, man. That was
absolutely
such a great performance.
There's one part where he hits a stormtrooper and you just see the stormtrooper's mask just shatter.
Yeah.
And you're just like, oh, that guy's it's right up there with the fight with the armor in season 1.
Yeah.
When she's just smacking him with the hammer she uses to forge things.
Dude, it was great.
The action was just mwah.
And then not to mention when he finally gets his chance and he steals his armor back after Din Djarin was so unwilling to get it back, give it back to him because he wasn't a real Mandalorian. dude, it was great.
And
then
man, and yeah, he's just murking them left and right, just fighting with such efficiency. And I'm like, this is what I've been waiting for. This is how you show me that Boba Fett is a dangerous, badass person. You don't just tell me and then he gets accidentally knocked into a Sarlacc pit. You show me that like he decimates them.
yeah,
He doesn't even let them escape. He blows up their ship as they're running away.
yeah. Well, I mean, I think that's also revenge because I mean, unfortunately, this episode we see the death of the Razor Crest. That hit a chord.
That was like, his whole identity is being taken. But the spear survived because of course it did, because we gotta have him have his sword fight, so the spear survived.
Listen, I don't think you should hold on to that as long as you can.
Anyway.
But all right, I want to kind of go
yes.
right into this because Boba Fett, great use of fan service.
Absolutely.
And actually it's finally considered like real fan service versus before, I feel. But then we get this later reveal, or I guess it's a continuation of reveal that we didn't discuss yet, but we had in a previous episode. I think it was at the end of the siege. We got a glimpse of the Dark Troopers.
The Dark Troopers, they're from one of the old video games, I believe.
It's from the one that was on the Nintendo 64, I think, and like PS1. It was Star Wars Dark Forces. They were like an enemy in the game. I mean, this came out like around the time that like droids were like also coming out in the prequels. Right. Like that. Super early. I think Dark Forces actually might have been released earlier.
And basically, they're just like a much stronger.
1995 is when Dark Forces was released.
Okay, they're basically like a super battle droid, except more intense.
Yeah,
and they have that whole Darth Vader aesthetic.
Yeah.
Honestly, in theory, you're like, oh, that's cool, like an elite set of droids, but you're like,
the one thing that they succeeded to do in this episode was piss everybody off and make everybody sad because they took our precious Grogu.
Right, and then they had that cool kind of like almost like a techno like music that played with them.
Dude, Ludwig Göransson did he worked his magic and his tunes, and I gotta say he really he makes the show even better.
Yes, he does. And I personally, I think we both agree that it would have maybe been cooler if it was like, maybe instead of droids, it was like an elite squad of troopers, I
don't know, maybe Death Troopers or something.
Yeah, something, just that, not just, droids that are, you just, you don't even have to pay an actor. You just composite them into the scene, and
they do have a cool design, I'll say. They're cool looking, but it would just be nice to see some other things. Overall, fantastic episode.
Yes.
I'll tell you what, this episode does do something that it was kind of unexpected and was such a pleasant surprise. Not only do we get this great performance and character by Boba Fett, but then we also find like he has an arc of his own, and he gets like some sort of like plot for himself, because now he turns to Djarin and offers himself as like being an honorable Mandalorian and soldier. His honors is the most important thing to Mandalorians. At least we're supposed to think that. He reveals his chain code, right, of his honor. He shows Jango Fett, and I guess some people have decoded the chain code, and it includes some other things that's super important.
Yeah, it covers like that it was Jango Fett's, and that it was someone
Jango
before
Fett's a Mandalorian teacher or something like that. And it was his father. But like he then, instead of being like this bad guy, right, he turns into this guy who's fighting for a just cause. He's like, I will help you like on your quest, and like,
yeah, until you get the kid back, I'm like in your
debt.
Like, right.
That that was so great. I love that.
It's a great. It leads us right, comfortably into our next episode, the penultimate episode of the season, which I honestly think
Did
this
you
next
just call
episode,
it the penultimate
episode of the season. Yes.
Yeah,
I know.
that was such a great way of putting it.
Well, yeah, I mean, because it's literally what it means. It's the second to last episode of the season. The Believer directed and written by Rick Famuyiwa. And this one, is again, I was a little apprehensive bringing back Bill Burr's Mayfeld because he wasn't one of my favorite characters in season 1.
Let me tell you something.
Yeah.
I just Googled it, and penultimate didn't mean what I thought it meant because I've never heard that word before.
What did you think it meant?
I thought that word meant like it was a great piece of writing, and I'm like, oh, dude, I thought this episode was really well.
Ultimate.
I thought this episode was really well written too, and I'm glad you clarified that for me.
Yes, it is the penultimate episode and also fake penultimate episode. But yeah, no, this episode I really liked. This might have been my favorite episode of the season. Because we get Mayfeld. Like I said, I wasn't crazy about him season 1, but here they really fleshed him out.
They make him relevant.
Bill Burr brought his A game to this. He really brought a lot of humanity to a character who I thought was just kind of annoying in season 1. Except he lost his cool robot arm that carried an extra blaster.
Yeah, I mean, he was in jail, Zach. What do you expect? They don't let you keep all your things when you're in prison.
But basically, they have to go to this planet Morak to find what is it? It's a base for the ISB, and they are trying to find the information for Moff Gideon's ship to go after him to save Grogu. And to do that, they have to sneak into this base, and Mayfeld, being a former Imperial sniper or sharpshooter, he is going to be able to access the computer and get the information they need. And that is not how the plan goes.
At all. But I mean, like, we find our heroes now traveling in the arms of one Boba Fett in the Slave One. We get these great, I'm like, okay, we're going places now. We go pick up Cara Dune. We got to go pick up Mayfeld. And I love
when he goes to get Cara Dune and he's like, hey, I need your help with something. And she's like, I'm really busy. And he's like, it's killing Imperials. And she's like, I'm down.
I'm like, you had me at Imperials.
Right.
I also think that he's like, they took the kid. She's like, oh, fuck. Right. I like that little guy.
So yeah, they hightail it to Morak. Another cool environment. It's like a jungle setting. Again, something we don't get to see very often in the series, at least in the live action.
Yeah. And we saw a beach. I think that got almost close in Rogue One.
Rogue One with, what was the name of that? Scarif.
Scarif, yeah. I don't know if I was a big fan of Scarif at first, but it grew on me. It definitely grew on me.
But here, in the jungle setting, they have to, basically, they commandeer a big truck that is moving rhydonium, which is highly volatile. It's you'll look at it wrong and it explodes.
Ugh.
And of course, the Imperials are fighting the local natives, so they're having to transport the rhydonium while the natives are attacking. And also, Mando doesn't have his Beskar armor; he's just got flimsy stormtrooper armor. So it leads to some cool action scenes. He's not, his normal tactics of just kind of stonewalling an impact don't work.
I mean, I think you skip one of the best fucking parts of this
episode.
You're
right. Oh my God.
It's like when they're devising the plan of who's going to be the sniper in the sky and who needs to be on the ship.
Amazing.
And everything.
It's so amazing.
They're trying to think who's going with who, because Mando doesn't take off his helmet and they need his face reveal, versus Mayfield feels like he could get caught. And then they look at Boba Fett, they're like, let's just say they might recognize my face. Dude, it's another one of those, if you know, you know.
Pitch perfect. Tamura Morrison kills the line. It's so good. I was through the roof when I heard that, because I was yeah, if you don't know that Jango Fett was the template for the clones, and that the clones were what became the stormtroopers essentially.
It was both subtle and also in your face at the same time, and
it's fantastic.
It was perfect.
Just absolutely one of the funniest things I've ever heard from a Star Wars show or movie. 10 out of 10.
Yeah, I gotta say. But I
But
mean,
yeah, they have this cool, like, almost like a wagon heist, except they're blowing up the wagon.
yeah,
Um, Mando has to kill them. There's some kind of weird things going on there, because then you go like, well, they're killing people who are technically the good guys and helping the
yeah.
bad guys, but
I think the way I rationalized that was more like, okay, they really need to commit to the mission, especially because I guess the child's more important than these fucking people. So
right,
that's the way I think about that, and I'm happy. I mean, I'm
yeah,
not
it was
happy with it, but I'm not going to complain about it.
the show didn't dwell on it, but it was just something, I thought it was kind of
Yeah,
interesting. But then another real strange development is they get saved by TIE fighters, and there's that moment where you go like, oh, thank God, and you go, but oh, it's a TIE fighter.
dude, this is, I want to say, one of the first times though that Star Wars has kind of switched the narrative and now is making us really trying to sympathize or empathize with the antagonists.
Exactly.
And for Star Wars to do something like that, which they tried one other time to point this out to us, but I guess it just worked better here for whatever reason. It's
Right,
just so it's, I mean, I don't know. It's a new direction for them to go in. It's really refreshing, and it's also a great way to convey to the audience, like, listen, like, the ideas that they have here, and it's kind of some of the dialogue that Mayfeld delivers. I mean, with Bill Burr's performance, is like what it means to be a soldier and this big cog of like the military industrial complex that is the Empire, but also how it relates to the real world. Like, some people felt like they don't know why they're fighting for whatever cause, because really the cause is just one way for one person, and maybe the opposite side feels the exact same way, just in their perspective, And,
Yeah, no, I think Bill Burr, he touched on some stuff, because he gets into a whole thing about his time with the Empire and his role in Operation Cinder, which is from the Battlefield 2 story. Battlefront 2 story, thank you.
Battlefield is a great game, though.
Yeah, and other than being just a cool, like, oh, that's a thing from that other thing, it did add a lot of depth to his character, and it touched on an aspect of war that I think is not always, like, dwelled on much, and I think it's really good. It's interesting that, yeah, with this episode, between kind of humanizing the enemy side and showing the effects of almost like PTSD on these characters, it shines a light on aspects of war that are not as easily digestible, I think, as other things. The Last Jedi tried that with war profiteering, and people hated it.
I mean, and I don't know why. It was honestly probably one of the more integral parts of the story. I feel like one of the ideas that Star Wars hadn't explored, and
it is as integral to the aspects of war as anything relating to, humanizing the enemy, or people carrying out orders that they don't necessarily agree with because of that's the orders they're given. So it's interesting. The Star Wars community can choose when they want to get real and when they don't, and unfortunately, I think a lot of people have misjudged a lot of stuff with Last Jedi.
I think so too, man. That movie has a lot more to offer than what a lot of people will give it credit for.
It's funny because they'll tell you, oh, we just didn't find the war profiteering thing all that interesting. But oddly enough, a lot of times the biggest issue people have with Last Jedi is the fact that it had a lot of people who weren't white and male in it. I think that's the nexus of a lot of complaints about that movie. But we'll talk about Last Jedi and how it's
ahead
fantastic.
of its time. It was ahead of its time.
I don't know if it was ahead of its time. I think some of the fans were just behind the times.
Oh, actually, that's an even better way to put it.
Yeah.
But I mean, dude. I guess once we get out of those moments, another piece of great fan service. Hold
on. We gotta before we talk about that, I do want to mention Mando takes his helmet off in a room full of people. This is a huge development for Din Djarin.
Yeah.
He's basically backed into a corner. He has to do it. He has to. But if he hadn't met Bo-Katan in chapter 11,
you don't think he would have done it?
Absolutely not. I think it was that moment where she's like, "Oh, that's not the Mandalorian way. This is not the way," she said. And he said, maybe I've been doing it wrong this whole time. And we get a hint of that before, I think, in one of the episodes where they show him sitting with Grogu, and he kind of lifts his helmet a little bit to take a drink of something.
Yeah. Which, by the way, you can clearly tell is not Pedro Pascal because the mouth is not, like, at all
right,
what
yeah.
he looks like.
But, so this was just a very cool moment. He allows himself to be seen by Mayfeld, and even Mayfeld is respectful. He's like, I didn't see anything, don't worry. And just a major character moment for him, but also like the fact that Mayfeld isn't a scumbag about it. It shows a lot of depth for his character too.
Yeah.
He realizes this is important to Mando, and he's not going to make him feel bad about it.
I mean, it just makes me want to have more of him for whatever reason in future Mandalorian.
Yeah.
Even though I don't think he'll serve. I mean, he's served his purpose up to this point, so I don't want him just to include him. But if they find another reason why they should include him, I welcome it with open arms. I really do.
If it was season 1, I would say no. But after this episode, I was like, I'm totally on board. And then we get maybe the best fan service moment in the season, which we have the team is escaping. They're in the Slave One, which is being chased by TIE fighters, and Boba Fett launches into the sky, flips a few switches, and that back panel, it slides open, and the second I saw that goddamn seismic charge falling out of the back of his ship, I think I shit myself practically.
Dude. So I think I waited long enough to get into a certain topic of the show, but I think that was a good time. That I agree. This is probably the best use of fan service.
Yes.
Which, ladies and gentlemen, lovely listeners, for the first time here on Scripture Screen, we've received our first fan question.
Ooh.
Remember, if you want to submit a fan question, you can go to any of our social medias at Scripture Screen or any of our podcast outlets and leave a comment. And so our first question comes from one of our listeners, Libby XLT. And Libby says, hey, Chris, as I finished Mando Season 2, I found that the season had a lot of really great Star Wars moments. The inclusion of fan favorite characters like Boba Fett and Ahsoka Tano, as well as further inclusion of weapons and seismic charges, and later the Darksabers, show the Lucasfilm's commitment to their dedicated fan base. However, after the release of The Rise of Skywalker, I noticed you took to Twitter to discuss how Lucasfilm's commitment to fan service made the film an underwhelming and disappointing finale to the entire film saga. My question for you and Zach is, what is the difference between the use of fan service between the two projects?
That is an excellent question. Personally, for me, I think it's how intrusive it is to the overall story. Like, if someone just kind of pauses and says, hey, look at this, it doesn't have anything to do with what you're dealing with, but there it is.
Like, what's the purpose of a certain inclusion of a certain aspect?
I would point to literally anything out of Chapter 5 in Season 1. All of that I think was terrible. It was just literally just, I'm going to say this word now because it's Star Wars, and that's a Star Wars word.
Oh, you mean Dank Farrik?
Dank Farrik or Womp Rat or when like Pelimoto has one thing where she's like, oh, they're gonna hear about this in Beggar's Canyon. And I'm like, is Tatooine like a mile across?
Yeah, like we said, the galaxy far, far away down the lane.
Right. So if it's not intrusive, again, this is just me, but the less intrusive it is and the deeper the cut, the more I'm going to enjoy it. But if it's something obvious and something that is just like distracting, then I start to put my foot down.
I think for me, and I should take responsibility because I did tweet very harshly after my first viewing of Last Jedi. Rise of
Rise of
Skywalker,
Skywalker.
in theaters. I apologize for that.
Oh, it's okay. The movie sucked.
Some of my thoughts have changed since that viewing, but at the same time, my biggest issue with it was Palpatine specifically.
Ugh.
And I felt like, I mean, one, they said it in the movie, you know, like somehow Palpatine has returned, and then a moment later we get like the character played by one of the hobbits in Lord of the Rings.
Dominic Monaghan.
Dominic Monaghan. He's like, oh, dark cloning. And then we get this whole lineage thing of Rey being related, and I'm like, wait, what?
Yeah,
What's all that?
It's just
there was no breadcrumbs or lead up or anything really that I felt that we got in the first two films to justify that whole bit. And I think that's the biggest thing versus like in this show, you know, we did get a few breadcrumbs to go to some things. I mean, you mentioned earlier, note that we didn't mention like Anakin Skywalker's pod racer being used as a speeder. I'm like, I don't think that was terrible. That's not like important.
It was still literally like I
enjoyed that.
We have Mando on a normal speeder, and then Cobb Vanth, he literally slides into frame, so it's like front and center, and I'm like, oh my god, just get it out of there.
Like, you know, versus, and we're about to get into it with this final episode, you know, in the episode of the Jedi, we're told that Grogu, if he really wants to be trained or he wants to go through something, he should go to Tython and then like send out his Force beacon, and someone will reach out to him. And you know, in reality, from what we can tell, there's only a handful of people that we can really pull from, you know, from a pool of available Jedi or Force users that could reach out to him. And so, which is why I think that maybe the last half, you know, it makes sense. And this use of fan service and this introduction of this character into the series,
sure,
it at least it's brought into us because we have something to look forward to. We know that there's something that we don't know exactly what it is, but you know, versus something that's just kind of brought upon us and we just have to accept it. It's not like the Rise of Skywalker told us that anything about Palpatine in the very first, you know, the Force Awakens or anything like that. And so that's why I think, like, you know, we get some other subtle moments, like the seismic charge, like that.
Yeah, so that's why I like the seismic.
That's still super subtle.
That's why I like the seismic charge. That's why I think that is such an effective, like, fan service moment, because it's like, listen, I do not like Attack of the Clones. I think we've had our disagreements on this, but I think Attack of the Clones is a very poorly made film. It might be fine for just like Star Wars canon, you know, you watch it because it's Star Wars and you like Star Wars, so you like it. And I can totally respect that and understand that, but from a pure filmmaking standpoint, I believe Attack of the Clones is a very poorly made film. That being said, I love the seismic charge moment from that movie because it is fucking awesome.
Yeah.
So to have this moment, and I'm, you know, listen, I was born in 1990. I was at the age that the prequel movies were, you know, I was 12 years old. I was 11 or 12 years old when Attack of the Clones came out. I was at the exact like age I should have been to enjoy that. And as a kid, I probably enjoyed it more than I enjoyed it as an adult. But even as a kid, I was like, that's one of the coolest things I've ever seen. So to have that referenced in this, and in a situationally appropriate time, of course, he would have this same thing. It totally makes sense for it to be here. It's such a deep cut that I was like on cloud 9 when I saw it.
I want to end with too. I think it's also a lot easier to include a smaller aspect, like maybe like an item or some sort of iconic sounds or something like that, versus like an entire character, an entire new plot.
Agreed.
I think execution is important when trying to relate some of these characters. Like, we're lucky that the show is The Mandalorian, so who else is a Mandalorian? Bo-Katan, you know, like almost leader of Mandalore. And then, you know, that would lead us to Ahsoka Tano, you know, because they had a relationship. They knew each other. And not to mention, you know, Filoni's a creative head, so if he's going to try to incorporate his stuff. So, I mean, we got something to that lead up to where I think the execution of fan service in this series was more effective than it was in the final film, with all those reasons we just said.
So hey, Lee B XLT? Great question. And to our listeners, if you have any other thoughts, any other questions, just in general, about films or things that we talk about. Like, we love to hear them. We love to talk about them. So
please give us a follow, give us a like, give us a comment, and now back to the show.
To the exciting conclusion, which I think we can kind of wrap up the conclusion to this episode, to this season kind of quick, because while I had a lot of problems with the finale, but I think, we can kind of just stick to like the important like points. First of all, this is the second episode this season directed by Peyton Reed, so he got 2.
Yeah.
This season. This one is The Rescue. Guess what they do in this one?
They get back Grogu.
Yeah, so obviously I think we all knew it was going to happen. Like, they weren't going to kill the kid or anything. I like,
it was just like the how and why, and like maybe like the fun character moments in between that we got.
Exactly.
Like,
so we get Bo-Katan and Casca Reeves versus Boba Fett for a second. That was kind of fun.
It was, especially because she immediately identified, like, you're a clone, you son of a bitch. I've dealt with you in the past. He's like, you don't know me. You knew my fake brothers. Remember, Boba Fett in the Clone Wars, he never identified himself with
didn't
any
like
of the
them,
clones. Right? Yeah, no, he hated other clones. He thought he was a lot better because he was like the son of Jango Fett.
So, but then we get a cool like all ladies moment with Cara Dune, Bo-Katan, Fennec Shand, and Casca Reeves.
Dude, and super subtle versus like I didn't even notice it really until like the second or third viewing I had of this episode, because it wasn't as in your face as like Infinity War or Endgame where they had the like,
and now the women get to fight.
And not that I had an issue with that either, because I didn't. Though I know some people who did.
I think
who you are.
In Endgame, it felt a little forced, whereas this one, it was with Mandalorian, it was a bit more fluid.
Yeah, it just happened. You're like, okay, let's fucking do this, and like everybody did their shit.
It was cool, and like you got to see cool stuff, like the Casca Reeves and Bo-Katan that kind of peeled off to the sides.
Oh,
and
dude, it was awesome.
Yeah, that was really rad. So, a bunch of ass kicking ladies, you gotta love it. Here we're gonna come up to like my first big issue with this episode, which is Mando versus Gideon, because this fight sucked. All the build up to this, and literally he comes to the room and Gideon's like, "Oh yeah, just go ahead, take the kid. I don't care. I'm not gonna attack you." And wouldn't you know it, as soon as he goes to the kid, Gideon attacks him.
Yeah, that part was predictable, but I'd say like the the whole Darksaber versus the spear thing wasn't as bad as you maybe think it was or was going to be.
No, I mean it's fine, but then part of me goes like, okay, like Moff Gideon, he's a bridge officer. He's a like they never really I have to assume.
How do we know that he doesn't have any combat experience?
Fine, but it's like he's going up against like Mando, like one of the most dangerous bounty hunters in the galaxy. So I'm like, what was he expecting to happen?
I mean, listen, well, at the same time, we also don't really know how good with the spear Mando was, because we hadn't necessarily seen him do like melee moves just yet outside of, I think, a knife.
That's fine. Listen, all in all, like, it was a quick fight. It was over really fast, and it wasn't the point of the episode, so that's fine.
And it wasn't the point of. I think that fight was to lead up to bigger drama that perhaps we'll see later on.
Exactly. So, like, one thing I do want to put a pin in, because we'll have to talk about it, is he does not kill Gideon, and he claims and he takes the Darksaber.
He does. So, he disarms him.
So yeah, he disarms him.
Fucking Harry Potter.
Well, yeah, exactly. So we'll get to that. He's literally exactly what I was thinking. So, they capture Gideon. He starts cackling like an evil maniac, and he's like, "Aha!" But now Mandalorian Din Djarin has the Darksaber. He won it from me in combat, and now he is the rightful owner. And Bo-Katan, if you want it, you're going to have to win it from him in combat. And so then I go, well, hold up. I don't know much about Rebels or Clone Wars, but I do know that Bo-Katan was literally just given the Darksaber once in the past.
Yeah, she was given to it by I forget her name. I don't know why I'm blanking on it right now. But
does the name?
last
Maybe I'm totally wrong about this. Is it a character named Sabine?
Sabine Wren, yeah.
I feel like I read that somewhere.
Sabine Wren, who was like funny enough, she stole the Darksaber.
Is she the Twidarian?
No, she's the wife almost of Kanan Jarrus, and they have a kid, and I don't even know how that works. And we can assume that kid's force sensitive, but who knows? Anyways, Sabine's a Mandalorian. So she gave it to Bo-Katan, and that's all we need to know.
So boom, we established that you don't need to win it in a fight to get it.
We've seen it that you don't, but I mean, maybe I don't know. Who knows? Maybe Bo-Katan doesn't want.
I accept that maybe again. I accept that. Fine. Except that Gideon's the whole move he's pulling is, you guys are gonna have to kill each other because she wants to be the head Mando and you have the Darksaber, so looks like you guys are gonna have to kill each other. Except I'm like, dude, he just beat you, and didn't kill you, and he took the Darksaber. Like, this is where you get into Harry Potter rules. You don't gotta kill them, you just have to disarm them.
Yeah, I mean, listen. The best part about that is we're not even going to have to explore that until season 3.
Right. But it's just forced drama, pun intended.
Yeah. I don't know why they had to make it that serious, but
I don't know. I think they beat
you know what's funny, Zach, is that they had a whole other 3 episodes where they could have decided some of that information, but instead they decided to have people go on other quests.
What if scary spiders instead? But that being said, I feel like they beat Moff Gideon halfway through the episode, and they said, "Oh, we have more. We have to write."
Yeah,
we've only covered about 15 minutes.
Because wouldn't you know, we finally get the moment where the Dark Troopers are supposed to, finally get their moment in the sun. And show us how badass they are.
They got ejected because Mando fought one of them and nearly got his head caved in doing it. So he's able to get them all out. He jettisons them out in space, but hardy har har, they have jetpack feet.
Yeah, and they can also survive in space as
they're droids.
As one K2 said in Rogue One.
Right. So they pull Princess Leia.
That won't be the last time I reference Rogue One before the end of this episode.
Nice. But I know exactly what you're talking about. But they pull up Princess Leia, fly their way back to the ship, and it doesn't look good because everyone's kind of like contained in the bridge of the ship, and they're battening the hatches. They're trying to make sure they do not get in. Dude, oh my god, that's kind of a stressful moment too. Yeah, it's kind of cool, and then they're like, oh, someone's coming, and at first I think everyone was like, oh, here comes the New Republic coming to fight, but it's like, oh, it's one X-wing.
Oh man, and who flies an X-wing? Who flies a single X-wing?
Let me ask.
It's Dave Filoni, our New Republic fighter.
Who flies a single X-wing? I think anybody. No one flies 2 X-wings.
No, right, but I'm saying, like, what if it was just like that one guy,
his terrible Mandalorian character?
No, he's not terrible.
Oh my god, he's got such a terrible name. Hold on,
you just don't like him. It's like Wolf something, right?
Yeah, it's like let me come up with the coolest name ever.
You're so mean. He's just trying to live his best Star Wars life, and good for him.
God.
He's made some of the best stuff that I've seen.
Yeah, I have to find his name because it's such a.
I gotta tell you,
here's what I like about Filoni. He likes Plo Koon, and I don't think Plo Koon gets enough love in the Star Wars universe.
Koon, you son of a bitch.
Oh, is it Plo Koon? I don't know. He always looked cool. I always liked the way he looked. But
let me tell you though, this reveal, it's not that it was unexpected, but because the last few years we've been given a whole slew of like possible force sensitive people that anybody could have detected this incident.
I think a lot of people were predicting the kid from Rebels was going to be the guy, right?
Ezra Bridger.
Right, because he's tied to Thrawn somehow, and
yeah, so maybe it could have been him or something.
Right.
But no, in fact, it was, lo and behold, the one and only Luke Skywalker himself.
Yeah, I was gonna say you see the black suit, you see the one hand in the glove, and then you see the green lightsaber. And I think at that point, if you're still like, who could it be? You don't know Star Wars.
It was a fucking holy shit moment.
It was. At first, I was like, they're doing this?
And then he did exactly what I'm sure everybody in the world has wanted him to do for the last 4 years, which is just annihilate everything and be the best Jedi that he could possibly be.
This was the Luke Skywalker equivalent of the end of Rogue One, where Darth Vader just gets to slap people around with his lightsaber. Oh,
you made a Rogue One reference as well.
Oh. It's like it's a good Star Wars movie or something.
It's like music. It's like poetry. It rhymes.
Exactly. But yes, we see a lot of Luke Skywalker conveniently with his hood up, and part of me was like, "Oh, is this like a Sebastian Stan as
the fan favorite? What is it? What do they call it? Like the rumor mill turning out
fan casting. Yeah. So, but yeah, his hood's up. There's a reason his hood's up though. But he is, he cuts down a bunch of them. He has that one that he just like force crushes and stuff. And it's cool. It's fine. I say to everyone who felt off-put by The Last Jedi in that getting a Luke Skywalker who was not looking to fight and who was down on his luck and was presented as a real human being.
Zach, I'm going to tell you to shut up right now because you know what? They got it. And you know what?
Yeah, I was gonna say to all those people who didn't like that, now you have a Luke Skywalker in his prime.
So now love The Last Jedi, please.
Yeah. Because I say the great thing about The Last Jedi is they present Luke Skywalker as a real human being with real human flaws and not a monolithic hero that the movie goes out of its way to explain he never was or was meant to be.
I mean, I would even argue that like maybe they can do like what celebrity and kind of monolithicness could have done to somebody in the end.
Yes, exactly.
Like, so
if celebrities are any indication, you give someone a lot of credit and a lot of attention, they might go crazy.
Yeah.
And almost kill their nephew.
Jesus.
Because they had a moment of weakness. Anyway, this whole really cool Luke Skywalker in his prime business, though, it goes from being kind of an awesome, like, oh, this is awesome, to kind of a wet fart.
What do you mean?
Because he enters the room and he takes his hood off, and wouldn't you know it, Chris? It's not Luke Skywalker. It's Luke Deepfaker.
All right. So funny enough, I had to go through a lot of Googling and like research to decipher this. But at first, I did think this was a deepfake. Apparently, this was actually a CG.
Yeah, they just
got to look like a deepfake.
They de-aged him.
Yeah, but at the same time, it's like, let me tell you something. Disney, who's done so much other work in de-aging and CGI face crafting and everything. Listen, they did such. I personally think that Moff Tarkin and Rogue One looked great, even though, you can see it's a CG face, but like the detail and everything,
it was good.
I would say, like, dude, that looks. I was super into that.
I thought their Princess Leia, their Carrie Fisher, was a little.
I did not like that
stiff,
one.
But Tarkin, I think part of it is because he was slightly obscured in shadow.
But that's the thing. I think Luke, he still looks a little fuzzy, something blurry.
He needed some time in the oven.
Yeah,
I've seen YouTube deep fakes where they redo the scene, and it looks better than the actual.
Did you watch the corridor digital one?
Maybe
they did the whole thing. Yeah, to be honest, I didn't even like theirs. I think the best way they could have handled this was probably just to recast him, if not like maybe put
Sebastian Stan. He is a dead ringer for young Mark Hamill.
Like
now, I think if there's one good thing about this, I think it's awesome that they got Mark Hamill to come back and do this, and I think it's even more awesome.
In what capacity? Did he stand in, or did they have someone else?
I don't know.
They used his likeness, and he's like, "Yeah, that's me."
I don't know. I know obviously he did the voice and whatnot, but I will also say I think it's really awesome that we didn't know about this, because in this day and age, you find out this stuff leaks.
Yeah.
if if people were saying like, yeah, it's Mark Hamill reprising Luke Skywalker in his prime, I'd be like, yeah, that's something that would definitely get out.
Dude, I listen, I'm happy it didn't, and he was super happy it didn't either, but I mean, the moment that this thing hit the internet, like this episode, like, you were done. If you didn't watch it in that moment, you were screwed.
Yeah.
I think I was a little spoiled about it, because I didn't get to watch it until maybe the day after it aired, or something like that. So
I remember
I heard
watching
something,
it.
and I was like, ooh.
I remember watching it and definitely in the moment being like, I don't know how okay I am with this, because I was just like, it's another thing of just like God, like they have every main character on speed dial.
Yeah.
Like, I realize it's fan service. It makes sense because it would be a prominent Jedi at the time. I think overall, aside from the shoddy special effects, I think the scene was handled well. I don't think R2-D2 needed to roll up in there and squawk. It's good to see R2,
that was fun. I like that.
But it's like, it's almost kind of like, look, the silly character from the one originals gets to meet the silly character from this.
Let me tell you something. Let me tell you something. Is that I was told by an older Star Wars fan, a fan of the original thing, that you look at someone like Jon Favreau, who grew up in the time of the originals. There was no other person for the job besides Luke Skywalker to fulfill that role. And you know what? Sure. I'm like, you know what? That's probably right. It's probably
it makes sense. It's like I would love to see Mandalorian stand on its own 2 feet.
Yeah.
I would love for it to be a show about him.
I mean,
because it's called The Mandalorian.
Let me tell you what. There will probably be a lot more prospects. I think now that they fulfilled the Grogu requirement, and now he's off. And like now, I think there will be a lot more fulfillment in terms of like the Mandalorian aspect of the show, like moving forward.
Yeah,
at least if they dwell on some of this other stuff, because they shouldn't, because now they have a whole slew of other shows that they could take any of these other prospects to. They don't need to include all this, because then we get the reveal that like, oh, Boba Fett is now taking over the Hutt cartel.
He comes in and just ends Bib Fortuna's life.
Dude, which is awesome. And now, we get the Book of Boba Fett. We get the Ahsoka series, and she's going to explore the whole Thrawn thing and,
by the way,
roles and that Rebels left unfilled and all this.
Yeah. I like to also point out, like, real fast, speaking to the end of the final, like, last moments of Mandalorian season 2 is the scene where Din takes his helmet off in the room full of everybody with Luke Skywalker there, and he has his goodbye with Grogu. Like, for Pedro Pascal to pull off such intense emotion, acting opposite a puppet, is like, what a fantastic actor.
I gotta admit, like, oh man, like, he is super talented, and I really gotta say, like, this show, I mean, though he's not much in terms of, like, I mean, we get some of his physicality, but it's split between also the stunt doubles and other people. Like, when we do get him doing him, he does bring his A game, and I'm happy to be reminded that, like, a lot of this tabloid malarkey about him wanting more FaceTime and all this other crap, like, and maybe he just was saving face or something by saying, like, no, like, I am super committed to this character when I'm doing it, and I really see what the writers and Favreau and everybody are doing, and like, I respect that, and I'm trying to bring everything that I can to this character that is available. And you got to respect something like that,
Yeah, absolutely. He does a fantastic job, and I really think, even though you don't see his face for like 90% of the show, I couldn't see anyone else doing the character properly.
Yeah, dude, I mean, bravo, kudos. It's unfortunate. Yes. I think the Golden Globe nominations just came out and he wasn't nominated, but I understand it wasn't like a travesty. A lot. Yeah, but
a travesty.
We'll see come next year's Emmys or something.
Yeah, like that. But that ends season 2. We leave it off with them still in the bridge of that ship, and they've taken Moff Gideon captive. To be continued.
Yeah, and like I said, we get a whole slew of shows kind of picking up where this show drops some stories off, and
That's right.
hopefully
You were saying Book of Boba Fett. You were saying
Ahsoka.
Ahsoka.
We even get Dave Filoni's reprisal of his captain or whatever in the new Rangers of the New Republic and and all of that jazz. But like it'll be.
And I think they said that like all the shows, which again I'm a little cautiously cautious about, but they're basically doing the CW thing of like we're having all these shows and then all the shows lead up to one big crossover event, and I'm like,
oh wait, are they? Did they say they're going to lead up to a crossover event? Oh, I didn't know that.
So I'm not. We'll see. I'm trying to be positive.
Listen, I had one thing. My one criticism of this show overall that I want to go through, and it's, if I have anything, it's that the pacing of the show needs to improve in order for it to have full success.
Yes.
They laid all the breadcrumbs. They did all that. We have one kind of story we can focus on now about Mandalorians. We had 3 episodes of filler this season. I think 4, right? Marshall, Passenger, Siege. All right, just those. Last season it was a lot more. There were maybe like 3 episodes 5, of actual.
Yeah.
If you're gonna keep giving us 8-episode runs, like make them count.
Exactly. And I wrote here that like at the moment the only thing we really have to compare to in terms of like a Disney Plus series is WandaVision, which it's only 4 episodes in. We're getting our 5th episode tomorrow, and that's the thing that we won't even be able to tell until that's done, how the overarching pacing is done with that. But it'll be interesting to look at, like, if you look at Mando season 1, by 4 episodes in, you're already hitting filler.
Yeah.
But with WandaVision, I've been, in the first 4 episodes they've shown, they have not gotten to anything fillery yet. So I'm just like, do they just not have the story, content to fill 8 episodes? Are they given 8 episodes and then, just have to figure out how to fill it in? Or is it like, can they ask for 5 episodes and just make it a short, tight story?
I don't want that. I want as much as I can get, I'll be honest. We have our thoughts about how the next season should go. I think we wrote here like the reclamation of Mandalore, and then the conflict that arises between the old Mandalorians and the new, right? The Children of the Watch, like bring back the Armorer, Paz Vizsla, or Chad Vizsla as you like to call him, and like put Mando in the middle of all that and see how they react.
Don't want a forced conflict between Bo-Katan and Mando where there isn't one. Right. And I think we kind of, like we said, like the stuff that Moff Gideon was trying to get at was kind of like it rang false from, like nothing he said made sense.
What's unfortunate is we still have to put like a pin. We have to look at our pin of like the Gideon story as well, and we have to be reminded of the cloning that leads us to Rise of Skywalker and its connection to the Mandalorian.
Also, with Gideon, what was actually going on with him and Pershing and all that is interesting, and I hope we find out more. But you know what I want? I want Gideon to be as scary as as the promise of him was when we first met him. Because when we first met him,
Boba Fett.
When we first met him, he was an imposing dude. He was really Giancarlo Esposito. He's an amazing actor, and he was really channeling his Gus Fring when Gideon first showed up at the end of season 1. And this is twice now he's gone up against Mando and lost. And I mean, like, he had a plan and it basically just failed completely. And at no point have I been like, yeah, this dude warrants all the fear that he gets. I'm like, no, this dude sucks. Like, I want to see this guy who's supposed to be as dangerous, make him as dangerous and as scary as he is implied to be.
I agree. And hopefully we get those things and more. I think that they're pushing the show back to make way for some of the other things they have coming up forward. They're going to give us a Mandalorian break, which is fine, I guess. If they need more time to work this out for it to be the best that it can be, I'm not opposed to that.
Yeah.
That means we don't get it till 2022. Look forward to it then. Because it's a great product. It's great content. And I just don't want to see it, kind of hiking up the hill that it's kind of made for itself.
Yeah.
I want it to be smooth sailing. There's no reason why it should be, especially if they're trying to make something in terms of like Game of Thrones, like as I think that's what he's quoted in saying, Favreau being that person. Just then fulfill that, dude. Don't.
I think it has the potential to have that scale, but not if they keep using established legacy characters as crutches.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. Like, I think that I'm hoping that they finished all of that. The only other legacy character I can possibly think that they include is maybe Sabine Wren, just because she's a Mandalorian and she has a relationship with Bo-Katan, and they can, the reclamation of Mandalore is a hot topic amongst these guys.
Right.
I think
I wrote it here. I wrote it here. I just said, let the Mandalorian be about the Mandalorian.
I couldn't have said it better myself.
But yeah, I think with that is, I think, all of our extensive thoughts for Mandalorian season 2. This ended up being a long episode for us.
I think that we took the time, we said our great, these words that needed to be said. And, overall, season 2, much better than season 1. Really happy with the results.
Yes.
It should only go on from here.
And I'm excited. I'm scared, but excited at the future. Can't wait for tomorrow's episode of WandaVision. The future's bright. Oh my god, we totally forgot to mention. We're going. Me and Chris like to find really fun ways. Any time we can see a new a particular different format of a movie, whether it's in like 70 millimeter or an extended cut of something.
We are film enthusiasts.
We love to go out of our way to watch this. We got our tickets, 4K IMAX, Lord of the Rings. Oh my god!
If the audience doesn't know enough already, Zach, you are like the biggest Middle Earth fan, Tolkien.
What's
fan
that?
I know.
Do I have multiple swords from Lord of the Rings? Of course I do.
Come on, Zach. I know you have your vacation home in Minas Tirith, and possibly in Edoras.
Actually, I would take my holiday absolutely in the Shire.
There you go.
Yes, so that'll be an interesting thing to talk about when, I'm sure at some point this year, being that it's the 20-year anniversary of Lord of the Rings releasing.
I think we should give a little disclaimer. Be safe when you go out during these pandemonium times.
The theater we're going to is taking extra precautions to make sure everyone is spaced out.
So far, there's only like 8 people in the theater that have seats that we know of.
Yeah, including us.
Yeah.
So, I'm extremely excited for this, and I think when we get around to talking about Lord of the Rings, this will be an interesting thing to talk about. And yeah, I would say for anyone listening, anyone out there, hello. But if you ever have the opportunity to see any different format version of a movie, if it's in 70 millimeter, if it's, a roadshow thing, like that's how we saw The Hateful Eight.
Yeah.
Anytime you get an opportunity like that, take it, because they are.
We'll put it like this: film is dying, and you want to be a part of the movement while you still can. You want to support that industry while you can, if you're interested in it. If you're not, then get interested in it, or else I will hunt you down and I will show you my collection of 35 film prints. Anyways, I think with that being said, that's a wrap on us.
Yeah, if you listen to our mad crazy ravings for this long, you guys are awesome. This show, we do it for you, we do it for us, but we do it for you. And just thank you for taking the time out of your busy day to listen to us complain and cheer for a show about Star Wars.
We love it, and we want to keep loving it. If you love Script or Screen and want to keep supporting us, please don't forget to follow us on our social media pages. That's Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. Please remember to visit scriptorscreen.com, or you can check us out on anchor.fm/scriptorscreen. You can find us on all your favorite audio platforms, like Amazon Music. I don't know if I mentioned that on the show yet, but there you have it, folks. I am Christopher Kitchen. My
And I'm
co-host.
Zach Strackman.
There you have it. That is Zach Strackman. Please remember to support our lovely artists that can help contribute to the show. That's Nikolai G at makebettersongs.com to get all your music needs. And thank you to our editor, Billy, who I know is going to have a fun time editing this 2.5-hour freaking podcast.
Thank you, Billy. You're a very special boy.
You are. And we will see you on the next episode.
Bye.